Welcome to the 20th lesson on Python in UG Academy. Today we are going to continue with our tic-tac-toe project from last lesson. If you haven't watched last lesson, you may would like to go back and have a look. So we are going to continue with the broadcast first. We've already implemented 3 functions for the broadcast, but that's not all. We also need to implement an overload function for string in the broadcast, so that an instance of this class can be treated as a string. This function may look a bit complicated, but it's not that hard to understand. It simply allows the print function to print out this object as a board and representing its states. So first, we would like to initialize a string called s, and then it initially only contains the index on top of the board. That is ABC. Here, the APC here, okay. And then it ends with a new line character, and then we create a for loop to print out the things horizontally, to print out the horizontal row, okay. So first before printing out anything, we would like to print the vertical index. That is this here. Okay, that we not closing this, so we can refer to it here. So it add the vertical index to the string, and then add an empty space. And then here we start to print out the state of the board. If this grid is not the last grid, we also add a separator between the grid cells, okay, here. And if it's the last grid, there is nothing here, so we do not print. So there's an if statement here. Similarly, we also want to add the vertical separator for the grid here. And similarly, if it is the last row, we would not like to add the vertical separator, so there's an if statement here. And after everything, we add a new line character to it. And then we return back the resulting string. So this resulting string will print out as a board here. Okay. So this is the last function for this broadcast. Now we are going to use this broadcast and create our main program. So in this main program, I use a few standard library, which I have not mentioned before, but I'll explain quickly here. First, we import the OS program, which allows us to interact with the system and perform some console operation. And then we import from time we import sleep. This will allow our program to pause for a while and allow the message to be displayed. Okay. And then we also import from game. Game is the file here. Import the broadcast we have just written and use the function there. So at the start of the program, we simply create an instance of the broadcast so that we can utilize all we have written here. And then we create I equals to 0, which serves as our game counter, and then a current player variable, which in this case, what is the current player. Then here is the game loop while true. Normally, if we should not loop while true, because a true loop will go on forever and it will never end. However, we provide some breaking conditions later on that will break out of the loop. Okay. So now, first we print out the welcome message, and then we print out the state of the board. The reason we can use this print function here is because of the overloader function we just written here. So it can be interpreted as a string. So we can print out the state of the board easily directly using print. And then we use the standard input function that requires the user to input their move from the console. And then we use try, the exception handling mechanisms in Python. Why we are using try? Because the user input may subject to many problems. In case there is an error when processing the user input, for example, the user input to a position that has already exists as cross of a circle, then an exception is raised and it will be handled here in except. It is also possible that the user simply inputs some random stuff. Then it will also raise an exception since the input won't be found in the library in the dictionary, and it will raise a key error. So as long as there is some problem with the user input, we go into the except part. The except part will display an error message, and then the program will sleep for 1 second. The sleeping is mainly for allowing the message to display. And then the system will issue a CLS command to the system. This command means we would like to clean the output of the command prompt. It will clear everything from the command prompt. And then we use continue. The continue command means the continue keywords, which we call it keywords, means we go back to the beginning of the loop. Okay. Not exactly to the beginning, but we should call it that we go on to the next iteration instead of executing the statement afterwards. So every time continue is encountered, the Python interpreter will go on to the next iteration, starting here, instead of continue with the rest of the loop. Okay. So if the user input a wrong value, it will simply display an error message and stop for 1 second, and then clear the input, and then perform everything here again, and you require the user to input again. Since the current player variable is not changed, so it will still be the same player to input the move. But there are also other conditions possible. If there exists a winner after the player has moved, that means it already go through the try phase and didn't fall into exception. So this continue is not encountered. That means the move the player has just put on the board have led to a win. So it has true-false value regardless of who is winning. But since we know the current player, so we also know the winners. Then we will break. There is also another possible condition that we are going to break. That is, if the move number has already reached 9. We are incrementing the move number here. If the move number have already reached 9, that means that there is no longer any empty space on the board. It will also result in the end of the game. So we also break. Okay. Otherwise, if the current player is X, then the next player will be O, because the game is not ended and will goes on. If the current player is O, then the next player will be X. Okay. And every time the user finishes inputting a move, we will clean the console and then print out everything again. Because the state of the board has already changed, so we clean everything, and then the loop continues and we print out everything again with the new state. So if we encounter the terminating condition reached here, the while loop will break. Okay, and then we goes on here. Similarly, we clean all the existing output on the console, and then we print the board again. This will be the latest state of the board. And then if 9 equals 9, means that we have reached the end game. So that will print out. It's a draw. Okay. If I not equals to 9, we print that it's a draw. If I not equals to 9, we print out that somebody won, because the number of moves is less than 9, so somebody must have won. Okay. Otherwise, we will print out it's a draw. Actually, there exists a small bug within this code, possibly. If you can find the small bugs, you may put a comment in the comment section. But in general, the program will perform well. Okay, let me try again. Okay. Oh no, A3. then maybe C1, and then maybe circle moves to B3, and then what have I done? The question is already wrong. B1. Okay, player X has won again. So that's all for today. And this is also our final tic-tac-toe project. And it will sum up our series on Python.